So we're looking at all cultures, Hofstede's six-dimensional model, very quickly so that you have a conceptual framework. There are 6 dimensions or 6 cultural characteristics that every culture has. One is the relationship to hierarchy versus equality. One is whether the person or the mindset is more individualist or it depends on others for its definition of life, for support, for loyalty, etc. Performance and caring versus mass is performance and caring, masculinity, versus a more gentler approach, performance versus caring, uncertainty avoidance, which is dealing with ambiguity or the unknown and functioning within that environment, flexibility and discipline, which is long-term orientation, LTO. I'll go through all of these, and indulgence versus restraint. I will walk you through each of them. How we use it is we have scores, we have numbers. As you can see across the screen, we have 77 India scores in power distance, 48 in individualism. This is on a scale from 0 to 100, 56 in masculinity, 40 in, and so we have a tool that you can use to understand the cultural differences. It's the only system, as far as I'm aware, that actually quantifies human behavior in this manner. And what does this do for you? Well, you can compare different countries. So for example, here I've compared France, Germany, India, and the Netherlands on these 6 dimensions. So you can compare a nation, for example, let's say you take 68 as the score of France and 77 is the score of India in the dimension of hierarchy. That means India is more hierarchical than France is, but if they are close, they understand the concept of hierarchy, there's a top-down approach, etc. Yet, if you look at the other 2 countries in the comparison, Germany and the Netherlands, you see that they are much lower in power distance or much lower. That means they're more egalitarian countries. So when you have a country which is high power distance working with a country which is low power distance, you can understand that there's going to be a difference in the way people think. And so by using these tools, you can strategize and you can adapt and you can plan how to do business in India, particularly if you come from a country where you are different in the scores. The differences matter the most. So moving on, you can compare, like for example here, I showed just to take power again as an example, the differences in this case are a little less between Germany, Netherlands, and India. This case, they are tremendously higher, and the 2 countries are Denmark and Sweden. So there is a difference that can be, and that impact is on how intense the behavior patterns are. So as you understand that, let's go through the various dimensions. I have very little time, but I will do it as fast as I can. So we have a very high score on power distance. That's the hierarchy. It is accepted and expected. It is normal. It is good. It is expected that there is a senior person or there is a person with rank and status, and that person will determine what you do, what you don't do. Subordinates defer to their bosses, and the boss is supposed to look after their needs. This is the mindset. Therefore, direction is required. And you have to show that you are capable of leading. You are sure that you are the boss. Now, we have a rule here. The boss is always right, even when he's wrong. So this is power distance for you. The other dimension, the second dimension is individualism, collectivism. That means, do you think more as an individual or a smaller? Is your focus a small a dot versus a wider concept? So if you imagine for a moment, envision a flower, there's a center and there are many petals, right? So in collectivist societies, each petal is an in-group. It's a circle of influence that influences the way you think, okay? So your life is defined by your relationship to the multiple in-groups that you're part of, whereas in an individualist society, it's very much more focused on the core. This is something to understand when you talk about individualism, collectivism. When you take these 2 dimensions together, for instance, in India, it's that in India, personal and business relationships tend to intertwine. There are no clear defining boundaries. You could call up somebody in the middle of the night and they would be there to help you because that's part of building the relationship. So establishing, and this is the key point, establishing a personal relationship, showing that you are dependable, you are part of the group, is when you can actually do proper business with people here because you have invested time getting to know them. and you've invested time and effort in building a relationship. Respect the hierarchy, build a relationship. This is critical to work in this country. Another dimension is called masculine femininity. India has a medium or high score masculine, which means our society values symbols of success and achievement. In several other cultures, it's more focused on how comfortably everyone can work together. I think in Dutch it's called gezallig, if I've got the pronunciation right. And in German, I think it's called gemütlich. And that sort of indicates to you the difference where in a more masculine society, it's the symbols of success, it's achievement, it's winning the business. So being on the cusp, we're not exactly too high or too low, we're in a middle score. It's likely that people will work very fervently behind the scenes to win. Yet, on the surface, it will be projected as a scene of unity, and across groups and segments, there should be harmony. Now, another concept is when you are dealing in India, which is masculine, price is a critical factor. Not only because we're cheap and we want a good deal. It might be that too, but it's not only that. It's important to win, but it's important to win at the best possible price, or the best possible terms, or the best possible deal, because it's a huge boost to the image and the status. And for an Indian, it's a real high to be able to get a damn good deal. And that comes from being masculine. So be prepared to have a very good price point, a very good offer, and building flexibility into your position so that you have negotiation space. It's very important. You won't go into a meeting and get everything done in the first shot. It's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of back and forth. It's going to be a lot of changing realities. You have to be flexible. That is very, very important. The dimension that I'm about to talk, or the characteristic I'm about to talk of now, is perhaps one of the most important, because we have a medium score in uncertainty avoidance. I think our country is comfortable with a certain degree of ambiguity in everyday life. There are other cultures that are very uncomfortable with ambiguity, and they develop systems and processes to see that everything is perfectly planned. In our society, we can work with a little bit of ambiguity. We're okay with it. We don't get completely out of sync if things are not absolutely perfect. So process perfectionists are going to have a little bit of trouble. They're also going to have some reluctant at best buy-in from Indians, because Indians are not completely 100% sold on the concept of being 100% process-oriented. Okay, so we'll keep one eye on your process, of course, but we'll also be scanning for a loophole or a shortcut, which is not likely to cause any trouble or bring the roof down, but it's something that fulfills all the necessary requirements, gets the job done, and that is called the chalta hai, or it'll do. It's not perfect, but it'll do. Chalta hai is a local term which means it'll do, we'll manage, it'll be okay, let's move on. So some visual, if you just imagine, queue jumping, which is something that Indians have had to deal with for a long time, people cutting queues, which are not something that you do in most Western cultures that easily without being fired or scolded and shouted at or something like that. But queue jumping, not following rules and regulations, our chaotic driving conditions in Indian cities, these are all indications of this particular dimension. What is also very, very important is this dimension is what makes us flexible. It's what makes us nimble. It makes us work when things are not 100% perfect, but move on and we'll find a way through the problem. So this leads to sort of innovative ways of dealing with red tape. And we have lots of that here. Indians have gone through this for 60 years, 70 years. We've been going through these processes of red tape. Sometimes archaic laws and rules. There's a workaround. Somebody smart has developed a workaround. And sometimes when you're very process-oriented, people get a little uncomfortable with that. Be prepared for it. And be prepared to have trust in your Indian partner to choose the process that he's going to follow. Of course, I cannot, with full conscience, tell you to throw caution to the wind and say, let them do anything they want. No, that's not very safe. But in small things, in certain paperwork or in certain rules and regulations. If the Indian is confident there's a safe workaround, then you have to let him do it. And it also builds relationship and trust, because the partner sees that, okay, you have the faith in him to accept that he's telling you this is the way it should be done. So coming to the final one, and I have a few minutes more, India is a medium to high score in long-term orientation, and we have a low score for indulgence. I take these two dimensions together because they work together very well. For example, we have shunned credit cards for ages till recently because the central philosophy was own it when you can afford it. This is a long-term thinking versus, you know, the immediate requirement for obtaining something or gratifying your needs. That's the indulgence side of it, which is relatively low. We are more restrained culture. So, of course, now things have changed. Credit is becoming the norm. But yet, Indians spend a lot of time on planning their future, their retirement, their saving processes. It's not like many Western societies where there's really only one instrument that sort of takes care of your retirement, like a pension or this. Indians will make multiple ones because they want to be safe, they want to hedge. Decisions are taken with a longer term perspective. Life strategy involves gradual acquisition of assets. Another very interesting concept about both the dimension uncertainty avoidance and long-term orientation, as well as indulgence and restraint, is arranged marriages. Arranged marriages in India are pretty much the norm. About 75% of Indians prefer, this is an important word, prefer arranged marriages. Okay, so this particular thing shows you the karmic philosophy that this is destined, that we are fatalistic people. This is destined, this is planned, this will happen, there will be certain hiccups along the way, but eventually we'll find our way if we are destined to be together, and so on and so forth. What does that have an implication on you in terms of your business? You have to understand that time is not a concept that Indians take as seriously as many countries in the West. Time is not linear, it is cyclic. So we are more fatalistic in the sense that we will believe that, well, if something didn't happen exactly to plan, that was destined. It's not a big deal. What has to happen will happen. So as one culturist put it, Indians believe in what will be, but with a lot of divine intervention. So for fruitful cooperation, and I hand it over to Divya in a second, fruitful cooperation with Indians, relationships critical. Be prepared for bureaucracy because we have a complicated power distance kind of environment here, but you have to be able to be flexible, nimble, and you have to understand that we are lower on uncertainty avoidance than a lot of Western countries. We know where the light bends, so to speak, when in our country. We will figure out how to work together. Expect negotiations to be hard, math. India is addicted to a good deal. Invest heavily in personal relationships. It's very, 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 very important. You cannot do anything without building that first. And respect the hierarchy, because sometimes a person at your level does not have the authority that you have. And that should not reflect on their integrity or their ability to take a decision. It's just that they perhaps cannot. So be open, right? Win a business assignment goes hand in hand with winning trust and building relationships. Be prepared to have nothing close in the first few meetings. It's a process more than a moment that will define success. Find the network. It's there. Sometimes the power holder is not visible. It could be hidden. You need to find out the network. Okay? We are collectivists and we're competitive. We're price competitive. So I will now hand over to my colleague Divya Susan, who will take the rest of the session. Thank you very much.